The Gina and Maddie podcast.
Here on Star, we have to put on our grown-up pants and put aside the secret sound and Hollywood showbiz goss and have some more difficult and grown-up conversations. And that's what we're doing this morning. So a little bit of a content warning here for some little ears in the car. We're going to be discussing sexual assault and harassment in schools. Maybe if you've got some teenagers in the car, it's probably worth turning it up a little bit because there's been a new report released about the increase in assaults and harassment in schools across the Central Coast, New South Wales and Australia. And to tell us more about it, joining us on the line this morning is Melinda Tankard-Rees. She's an author, speaker, media communicator, blogger and advocate for women and girls. I did some work with Melinda and Natasha Belling a few years ago, and I thought now is a perfect opportunity to have a chat to her about what is happening in schools across Australia. Good morning, Melinda.
Yes, good morning. Thanks so much for your interest in our report.
So what is it that we're looking at here, Melinda?
So a total of 79.9% of our survey respondents reported an increase in sexualised behaviours in schools. Now, the idea for this survey came about as a result of a conversation between the parenting educator and author Maggie Dent and my team, where we were swapping notes about increased reports from teachers and especially from female students about routine sexual harassment at school, being threatened, being propositioned, being demanded to send nudes, being subjected to threats about sexual assault jokes, and being subjected especially to sexual groaning, grunting and moaning noises. Female teachers were reporting that more, and so were female students. So Maggie came up with an idea to survey female teachers around the country, and we received over 1,000 responses. We've crunched that data and literally just launched it. And the findings are serious. They show that schools have become sites of abuse, an increase in sexual harassment of teachers and an increase in peer-to-peer sexual harassment from kindergarten to year 3, as young as that.
Melinda, I spoke to a Year 9 student yesterday knowing that we were going to speak to you today and asked her all these questions, and she said, yeah, Matt, that is exactly what is happening on a daily basis in high school here in New South Wales. We've seen reports in the last couple of years and more recently the last couple of months about big businesses and media organisations and reports into sexual assault and poor behaviour. Why are we not hearing more about this? Because these kids will soon become the adults of the future.
Yes, that's correct. Look, these young men that are engaging in these harmful sexual behaviours will become the adults that we read about, that we are increasingly, hearing accounts about sexual harassment, sexual assault in the workplace. These are the future leaders of our society, and we have to address this. The teachers reported that sexually harassing behaviours were most perpetrated by boys in year 9 to 10. They were identified as the primary aggressors in over half of the incidences reported against teachers, and teachers themselves said they did not feel safe at school. I am increasingly speaking to young female teachers who are leaving the profession, and some of those have only graduated, before this year, so they're out in their first year of teaching this year. And they say it's too hard. They're coming to school, they're being harassed, groaned at, grunted at, called sexual names. They are subjected to having photos taken up their skirts, down their blouses. And they tell me they didn't come to school to be sexually harassed every day, and they're leaving, and they're only first-year teachers.
Yeah.
So we are going to see a drain from the teaching profession. We're going to lose good teachers, and we're also going to have more traumatised girls. I have girls, I'm in schools most days in this country, and I have increasingly girls in grades 5 and 6 crying in front of me and saying they do not feel safe at school. They're pressured, they're coerced to send nudes, they're called disgusting names, they're judged for their bodies are judged and then ranked and sent out in Snapchat groups and encrypted Discord chats. This is the reality for them, and this is a trauma-inducing environment contributing to increased psychosocial risks for female teachers and female students.
Our guest this morning is Melinda Tankard-Rees, talking about the recent SHOT report into the increased sexual assault in schools across Australia.
Melinda, what role do you think schools should play in addressing this?
Schools have a legal obligation. They have a duty of care. Schools are criminally, in some jurisdictions, criminally liable and certainly civilly liable for the sexual harassment that happens in their school grounds. This is happening routinely. And what I've identified in my engagement with schools and has also emerged from our SHOT report is that schools do not have sexual harassment policies that apply student to student, student to teacher. They have policies that apply teacher to teacher and teacher to student, but not addressing peer-to-peer and peer-to-teacher abuse that we are witnessing. So that's a significant gap. Schools need clear policies, procedures, guidelines, codes of conduct and policies to address and rein in these harmful sexual behaviours. Another key finding is that girls especially do not feel safe to report. They do not feel that their confidentiality will be protected.
Yep.
They fear a backlash, abuse, bullying, harassment, gossip, and they feel the cost of reporting is too great. So we need to make it safer for them to report.
Melinda, there is a school of people who go, this is just boy bashing. Boys will be boys. I hate that phrase with a passion. Why is this happening? Boys aren't born this way, Melinda.
They're certainly not born this way. They're being socialised this way. Now, what boys will be boys says is that boys don't have a conscience, they don't have moral agency, they can't help themselves. That's an insult to boys and to men. I do this work because I believe better for our boys. And boys are being groomed by a culture of entitlement. They're being groomed by pornography as a significant driver of their behaviours. And they are, the porn industry is now the biggest department of education in the world. They're also influenced by malign social media influencers like Andrew Tate and copycat Andrew Tate. So we need to address those cultural drivers because, as you said, boys are not born this way, but the empathy, the kindness, the sweetness is smashed out of them from an early age, and we have to address those deforming broader cultural drivers and influences if we are going to form good men. To me, this is the question of the 21st century is our failure to form good men and good boys, and it needs a whole of community approach, including regulation of pornography, if we are going to address this.
Melinda, thank you so much for your time this morning and the work you're doing on this. It's to be commended, and hopefully we do start to see a shift in change in the schools around the country.
Thanks so much. We hope so too, Maddie and Gina. I really appreciate your time and your interest today.
The Gina and Maddie Podcast.